Section 8 of Dangerous Connections. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Dangerous Connections by Pierre Choderlos de Laclos, Section 8, Letters 36 to 39. Letter the 36th. The Vicomte de Valmont to the Présidente de Tourvel, bearing the postmark of Dijon.
Your severity augments daily, madame, and if I dare say it, you seem to be less afraid of being unjust than of being indulgent. After having condemned me without a hearing, you must have felt, in fact, that 'twere easier for you not to read my arguments than to reply to them. You refuse my letters obstinately. You send them back to me with contempt. You force me, at last, to have recourse to a ruse, at the very moment when my only aim is to convince you of my good faith. The necessity in which you have put me to defend myself will doubtless suffice to excuse my means. Convinced, moreover, by the sincerity of my sentiments, that to justify them in your eyes it is sufficient merely that you should know them thoroughly, I thought that I might permit myself this slight artifice. I dare believe also that you will pardon me, and that you will be little surprised that love is more ingenious in presenting itself than indifference in repelling it. Allow then, madame, my heart to be entirely revealed to you. It belongs to you, and it is just that you should know it. I was very far from foreseeing, when I arrived at Madame de Rosemonde's, the fate which awaited me. I did not know that you were there, and I will add, with the sincerity which characterizes me, that if I had known, my sense of security would not have been troubled. Not that I did not render to your beauty the justice which one could not refuse it, but accustomed as I was to feel only desires, and to yield myself only to those which were encouraged by hope, I did not know the torments of love. You were a witness of the efforts which Madame de Rosemonde made to keep me for some time. I had already passed one day with you, and yet I yielded, or at least believed that I yielded, only to the pleasure, so natural and so legitimate, of showing respect to a worthy relative. The kind of life which one led here doubtless differed greatly from that to which I was accustomed. It cost me nothing to conform to it, and without seeking to penetrate into the cause of the change which was operating within me, I attributed it, as yet, solely to that easy-going character of which I believe I have already spoken to you. Unfortunately, yet why need it be a misfortune? Coming to know you better, I soon discovered that that bewitching face, which alone had struck me, was but the least of your attractions. Your heavenly soul astonished and seduced my own. I admired the beauty, I worshipped the virtue. Without pretending to win you, I bestirred myself to deserve you. In begging your indulgence for the past, I was ambitious of your support for the future. I sought for it in your utterance, I spied for it in your eyes. In that glance, whence came a poison all the more dangerous, in that it was distilled without design, and received without distrust. Then I knew love. But how far was I from complaining? Determined to bury it in an eternal silence, I abandoned myself without fear, as without reserve, to this delicious sentiment. each day augmented its sway. Soon the pleasure of seeing you was changed to a need. Were you absent for a moment, my heart was sore with sadness. At the sound which announced your return, it palpitated with joy. I only existed for you and through you. Nevertheless, it is yourself whom I call to witness. In the merriment of our heedless sports, or in the interest of a serious conversation, did ever one word escape me which could betray the secret of my heart? At last a day arrived when my evil fortune was to commence. By an inconceivable fatality, a good deed was to be the signal for it. Yes, madame, it was in the midst of those unfortunates whom I had succoured that, abandoning yourself to that precious sensibility which embellishes even beauty and adds value to virtue, you completed your work of destroying a heart which was already intoxicated with excess of love. You will remember, perhaps, what a moodiness came over me on our return. Alas, I was seeking to fight against an affection which I felt was becoming stronger than myself. It was after I had exhausted my strength in this unequal contest that an unforeseen hazard made me find myself alone with you. There, I confess, I succumbed. My heart was too full, and could withhold neither its utterance nor its tears. But is this then a crime? And if it be one, is it not amply punished by the dire torments to which I am abandoned? Devoured by a love without hope, I implore your pity, and I meet only with your hate. With no other happiness than that of seeing you, my eyes seek you in spite of myself, and I tremble to meet your gaze. In the cruel state to which you have reduced me, I pass my days in dissimulating my grief, and my nights in abandoning myself to it, whilst you, peaceful and calm, know of these torments only to cause them and to applaud yourself for them. None the less, it is you who complain, and I who make excuse. That, however, madame, is the faithful relation of what you call my injuries, which it would perhaps be more just to call my misfortunes. A pure and sincere love, a respect which has never belied itself, a perfect submission, such are the sentiments with which you have inspired me. I would not fear to present my homage of them to the divinity himself. O you, who are his fairest handiwork, imitate him in his indulgence. Think on my cruel pains. Think, above all, that placed by you between despair and supreme felicity, the first word which you shall utter will forever decide my lot. At the Château de 23rd August, 17.
Letter the 37th. The Présidente de Tourvel to Madame de Volanges.
I yield, madame, to the counsels which your friendship gives me. Accustomed as I am to defer in all things to your opinions, I am ready to believe that they are always based on reason. I will even admit that Monsieur de Valmont must be indeed infinitely dangerous, if he can at the same time feign to be what he appears here, and remain such a man as you paint him. However that may be, since you request it, I will keep him away from me. At least I will do my utmost, for often things which ought to be at bottom the most simple become embarrassing in practice. It still seems to me impracticable to make this request to his aunt. It would be equally ungracious both to her and to him. Neither would I adopt the course without the greatest repugnance of going away myself. For, apart from the reasons I have already given you relative to Monsieur de Tourvel, if my departure were to annoy Monsieur de Valmont, as is possible, would it not be easy for him to follow me to Paris? And his return, of which I should be, or at least should appear, the motive, would it not seem more strange than a meeting in the country, at the house of a lady who was known to be his relation and my friend? There is left me, then, no other resource than to induce himself to consent to going away. I know that this proposal is difficult to make. However, as he seems to me to have set his heart on proving to me that he has, effectually, more honesty than is attributed to him, I do not despair of success. I shall not be sorry even to attempt it, and to have an occasion of judging whether, as he has often said, truly virtuous women never have had, and never will have, to complain of his behaviour. If he leaves, as I desire, it will indeed be out of consideration for me, for I cannot doubt but that he proposes to spend a great part of the autumn here. If he refuses my request and insists upon remaining, there will still be time for me to leave myself, and that I promise you. That is, I believe, madame, all that your friendship demands of me. I am eager to satisfy it, and to prove to you that in spite of the warmth I may have used to defend Monsieur de Valmont, I am none the less disposed, not only to heed, but also to follow, the counsels of my friends. I have the honour to be, etc., at the Château de 25th August, 17 .
Letter the 38th. The Marquise de Merteuil to the Vicomte de Valmont.
Your enormous budget, my dear Vicomte, has this moment arrived. If the date on it is exact, I ought to have received it 24 hours earlier. Be that as it may, if I were to take the time to read it, I should have none left to reply to it. I prefer then simply to acknowledge it now, and we will talk of something else. It is not that I have anything to say to you on my own account. The autumn leaves hardly a single man with a human face in Paris, so that for the last month I have been perishing with virtue, and any one else than my chevalier would be fatigued with the proofs of my constancy. Being unable to occupy myself, I distract myself with the little Volanges, and it is of her that I wish to speak. Do you know that you have lost more than you believe in not undertaking this child? She is really delicious. She has neither character nor principles. Judge how sweet and easy her society will be. I do not think she will ever shine by sentiment, but everything announces in her the liveliest sensations. Lacking wit and subtlety, she has, however, if one may so speak, a certain natural falseness, which sometimes astonishes even me, and which will be all the more successful, in that her face presents the image of candour and ingenuousness. She is naturally very caressing, and I sometimes amuse myself thereby. Her little head grows excited with incredible rapidity, and she is then all the more delightful, because she knows nothing, absolutely nothing, of all that she so greatly desires to know. She is seized with quite droll fits of impatience. She laughs, pouts, cries, and then begs me to teach her with a truly seductive good faith. Really, I am almost jealous of the man for whom that pleasure is reserved. I do not know if I have told you that for the last 4 or 5 days I have had the honour of being in her confidence. You can very well guess that, at first, I acted severity, but as soon as I perceived that she thought she had convinced me with her bad reasons, I had the air of taking them for good ones, and she is intimately persuaded that she owes this success to her eloquence. This precaution was necessary in order not to compromise myself. I have permitted her to write, and to say, "I love," and the same day, without her suspecting it, I contrived for her a tête-à-tête with her Danceny. But imagine he is still such a fool that he did not even obtain a kiss. The lad, however, writes mighty pretty verses. La, how silly these witty folks are! This one is to such a degree that he embarrasses me, for as for him, I cannot well drive him. It is at this moment that you would be very useful to me. You are sufficiently intimate with Danceny to obtain his confidence, and if he once gave it to you, we should advance at full speed. Make haste, then, with your présidente, for indeed I will not have Gercourt escape. For the rest, I spoke of him yesterday to the little person, and depicted him so well to her that, if she had been his wife for 10 years, she could not hate him more. I preached much to her, however, upon the subject of conjugal fidelity. Nothing could equal my severity on this point. By that, on the one side, I restore my reputation for virtue with her, which too much condescension might destroy. On the other, I augment in her that hatred with which I wish to gratify her husband. And finally, I hope that, by making her believe that it is not permitted her to give way to love, except during the short time that she remains a girl, she will more quickly decide to lose none of that time. Adieu, Vicomte. I am going to attend to my toilette. What time I will read your volume. Paris, 27th of August, 17.
Letter the 39th. Cécile Volanges to Sophie Carnet.
I am sad and anxious, my dear Sophie. I wept almost all night. It is not that I am not, for the moment, very happy, but I foresee that it will not last. I went yesterday to the opera with Madame de Merteuil. We spoke much of my marriage, and I have learnt no good of it. It is Monsieur le Comte de Gercourt whom I am to wed, and it is to be in the month of October. He is rich, he is a man of quality, he is colonel of the regiment of— So far, all very well, but to begin with, he is old, imagine, he is at least 36, and then Madame de Merteuil says he is gloomy and stern, and she fears I shall not be happy with him. I could even see quite well that she was sure of it, only that she would not say so for fear of grieving me. She hardly talked to me of anything the whole evening, except of the duties of wives to their husbands. She admits that Monsieur de Gercourt is not at all lovable, and yet she says I must love him. Did not she say also that, once married, I ought not to love the Chevalier Danceny any longer? As though that were possible. Oh, you can be very sure I shall love him always. Do you know, I would prefer not to be married. Let this Monsieur de Gercourt look after himself. I never went in search of him. He is in Corsica at present, far away from here. I wish he would stay there 10 years. If I were not afraid of being sent back to the convent, I would certainly tell mamma that I don't want a husband like that. But that would be still worse. I am very much embarrassed. I feel that I have never loved Monsieur Danceny so well as I do now, and when I think that I have only a month more left me to be as I am now, the tears rush suddenly to my eyes. I have no consolation except the friendship of Madame de Merteuil. She has such a good heart. She shares in all my troubles as much as I do myself. And then she is so amiable that, when I am with her, I hardly think any more of them. Besides, she is very useful to me, for the little that I know she has taught me. And she is so good that I can tell her all I think, without being in the least ashamed. When she finds that it is not right, she scolds me sometimes, but only quite gently, and then I embrace her with all my heart until she is no longer cross. Her, at any rate, I can love as much as I like without there being any harm in it, and that pleases me very much. We have agreed, however, that I am not to have the appearance of being so fond of her before everybody, and especially not before mamma, so that she may have no suspicions about the Chevalier d'Ancenis. I assure you that, if I could always live as I do now, I believe I should be very happy. It's only that horrid Monsieur de Jaucourt, but I will say no more about him, else I should get sad again. Instead of that, I am going to write to the Chevalier d'Ancenis. I shall only speak to him of my love, and not of my troubles, for I do not want to distress him. Adieu, my dear friend. You can see now that you would be wrong to complain, and that however busy I have been, as you say, there is time left me, all the same, to love you and to write to you.
Note: we continue to omit the letters of Cécile Volanges and of the Chevalier d'Ancenis, these being of little interest and containing no incidents. End of section 8.